been you round about 5,000 times.
Really hot as well.
But you know what, Pat, as well, mate?
I have, because when I was at the event on the weekend, don't get me wrong, I was listening to Fortified and stuff and got a lot from it, but you popped up and I thought, right, this is going to be interesting, this.
I'll talk about that, because I was a bit, hurt myself a little bit.
You said did you put on your story that you were frustrated?
No, I wasn't frustrated. I lost a bit of flow. It was the first time delivering that one.
Right.
But maybe we'll talk about it on today. But sorry to interrupt as well.
No.
But the idea of doing things you've never done before, you need to. You know, the failure and all that kind of thing. It's not so much failure. It was more like, let's do something I've never done, a topic I've never really done, to other people. And I know where the errors are and where I can get better.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt it in the crowd, because sometimes it's like I feel it, but you don't.
You don't. You never. Mate, so when you're delivering something to a massive audience, right, and I've done it thousands of times, you think, oh shit, that really went badly, and then you get the feedback and go, oh, I really, really love that bit. However, you might need to work on this bit, and you thought, well, I thought I bossed that out the park. So the people's interpretation of it, what happens in your head, mate, you know this as well as.
The thing is, I think you'll have a linear flow of exactly what direction you want to go in, but you'll know from your experiences, nothing ever stays on that path. There's always the addiction question. Not one person said no.
I know. I needed that. Like, I was going to get people to get the phone screen times out and say, you are an addict.
Oh, yeah. That was my plan,
But everyone said yes. Everyone said they are addicts. So I was like, all right, that's that done then. That's 10 minutes.
Should have put a little fraudulent no in there.
Yeah. You should have lined her up.
Can you say no and then show me your 10 hours of screen time? Yeah. Well, sorry, what were you saying there, Jim?
I can't actually remember what was I saying.
Yesterday, taking notes.
Yeah, so yesterday you came on and I'd seen the last podcast you were on. Because I think we'd spoke in December after the shoot at Manchester. And that podcast had came on and I listened to it. I listened to it a few times actually because genuinely when this was all a concept and an idea, that was what I took a little bit of inspiration from. And basically just I looked at that opportunity there with you in front of me, and I knew it was going to be interesting. And literally, I've brought the wrong book, so I've got
no notes.
My good lady's book.
Just wanted to clarify these points. Oh, shit.
Not fuming. But I have got questions, so I am going to message you them questions.
Yeah.
But literally, I was looking around me, and I don't know what it is, but I had about, no word of a lie, quarter of a book.
Full?
Just full. Just things I was learning, mate.
Oh, really?
So, like, fair play.
Interesting.
You say that you weren't comfortable or the flow didn't go how you wanted it to go, but I definitely 100% took a lot from that.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I think when I was a bit easy on myself, I said to Kate, I said, what I need to remind myself of is we're all on and I don't like to say it in front or behind because that puts a competitive edge to it, but we're all, further ahead on a path than others. You'll be further ahead or further behind on certain things. Same with yourself. So the things I've invested in and reflected on and worked on over years and years and years, it becomes the norm to me. So when you express that to someone else and they go, fuck, didn't know that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, that's really useful for you. And I noticed that when I had a performance coach for a few months.
Right.
And listening to him, I was like, fuck, you are light years ahead of me.
Really?
Some of the stuff he was putting in, like, frames for me, I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Just little ideas. He goes, why don't you try this? That's what coaching is, isn't it?
Yeah,
He's like, try this. And I'm talking about my frustrations with others and things like that. He's like, just be a lighthouse, not a tugboat. Little things like that. I'm like, just show them. And I'm like, don't try and pull them. They're not going to come. Yeah. Just be a lighthouse and show them that life. And I'm
blown away already.
I've got the hook already.
And I'm just like, fucking, let's go.
So what's Mark Plumb? So who is Mark Plumb? What's the backstory? What's the origin? I mean, you and I have known each other for a wee while.
Mutual respect, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Social media, mutual respect.
Yeah, Boz down, been there.
Yeah.
Boz down, been there. And you got us through COVID, right, on Saturday nights. So we'll cover that. Yeah. So what's the backstory? So who is Mark Plumb?
Where do we start? Do we try and keep it positive?
Positive?
Yeah. I think we keep it positive.
Yeah, you do what you want to do, bro.
Yeah, I mean, grew up in the northeast.
Borough.
Yeah, Colborne, Hamilton when I was a bit younger. And then I left when I joined the armed forces in 2005. But who am I? That's the question. It's not where I've been, what I've grown up. Who is Mark Plumb? Someone that's always wanting to be better.
Yeah.
They always thought you could do more. And from leaving school or even being in school, I wanted to be something else that was inside. And
Yeah.
I think the armed forces excitement and draw to that came when I was in my third year of college.
Right.
Doing joinery, looking around the people I was working with, thinking, I mean, not in a judgy sense, but I suppose we do think, I don't want to be like this working here.
Yeah.
Can I move on? And my brother was in the forces. He was an air traffic controller.
Oh, was he? Did he go before you?
Yeah.
Right.
He left this year.
Oh, did he?
Done his 22.
Time done. Wow.
And I went in the Cree's office, as you go in, showed this video of people parachuting into airfields and stuff. I thought, right, I'll do that. You know, so
Sign me up, baby.
And it was the RAF regiment that I joined. It's the ground forces of the Royal Air Force.
Yeah. Not a lot of people know about that.
They don't. No, and you know, as it's what's this word? As it has its fair share of examples of reasons to mock it, let's say.
Well, I mean, I'm ex-Navy, mate, right? So obviously we know that you guys get the 5-star hotels wherever you go.
That's not true, though, is it?
Here we go.
I've missed it. I've missed all those. But those that don't know what the Irish regiment is, I tend to say it's the, you know, it's the Marines of the Navy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it's the ground force of the Royal Air Force, and where any airfields are, they need air-based defence. So that's our job. It's infantry training to reach that standard and do that. I think I'm just giving my career. The question was, who am I, wasn't it? Who is Mark Plumb? Someone on a journey.
Yeah.
Developing himself, observing, reflecting, understanding that we're here for a limited time.
Yeah.
And I want to make an impact.
Good.
We'll summarise it.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool, that, mate. So you've balanced your armed forces career with a very, very successful DJ career. So you did a pretty big session yesterday for Housemasters.
Yeah.
Which you started that up during lockdown, right?
I started Housemasters in 2019.
That's right. Yeah.
The back end of 2019.
That's right. Yeah. I remember the first logos when you got when you put it out. Yeah.
So I left a brand that I played for many years.
Yes, you did.
And I took a break from clubs, and then I started Housemasters.
Very good.
Where did that develop from? The whole obviously I know it as Housemasters, and it's always in my head. It's always been there. It's Housemasters.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Where does that originate from?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it originated from an event in 2015.
Right.
So we're going way back, and we did an event at the Institute in Darlington.
Right.
And we called that Housemasters. Different logo, different concept. But the idea was, let's throw a brand together. I don't think I played on the first one. I just helped market it because I was heavily involved with the Keys and Institute. And, you know, under Cleveland Cables and Alistair and the people that owned that setup. And we got Jeremy Healy in and a few others. And that was just an event that kind of stuck in my mind. It was, you know, that's decent, but it never went anywhere. It wasn't anyone's brand. It was just thrown together. I think there was one event, maybe two, under that. So when I left, you know, I'll say it. When I left Retro in 2019, I took a break. I thought, right, what do I want to do? I played in bars for a few months, and I thought, I don't want the stresses of a monthly or weekly event. Yeah, I think it was oversaturated, but it's not just putting an event together and then having 500 people turn up.
Yeah.
A lot of work, a lot of mental energy lost. So let's do 3 or 4 year. Let's bring in the big boys. Let's have your Sanchez's, your Morales's, Masters at Work, all those people, the Housemasters. That was the original sort of idea. And I think I developed a mission statement for it. It was, you know, a celebration of world-renowned DJs, etc., you know, for that experience. And then at that time, I was a big fan of the Keys, and I've been heavily involved with the Keys for many years, and they were having a bit of a push for getting some guests in.
That's right, yeah.
And they had like Melville Baptiste, Roger Sanchez, Sam Devine, a few others. It was like a series, Lovely Laura. Yeah, it was like over 6 weeks, and that was nothing to do with me. And I heard they were getting Sanchez in on the 5th of December, I think it was.
It was, yeah.
That was the date, 2019. So I said, can I have Sanchez, Housemasters launch? And the guy that was booking it, he was like, nah, not doing it. No, it wasn't Les.
Oh, wasn't that?
It was someone else in. He was like, not doing it. No, he's mine. It's burning, this brand. We've got this push.
Yeah, I remember it,
So I spoke to Les. I'm like, Les, I get it, right? And explained to him that what this means, where this could go, and the trust that we had. I've been here for years. Like, Sanchez is the perfect guest. Let's do it. So we launched with Sanchez 2019.
Yeah.
That was the first House Masters, sold out, good times,
Yeah.
and it was the first time playing for that brand that I didn't know where it was going to go. You can never connect the dots forward.
Yeah.
I had this vision, and all things are created twice, first in the mind and in reality.
Yeah.
And it was successful, and then we jumped straight onto the next one. It was a leap year because it was 29th of February.
Yeah.
Dave Morales,
Yeah.
got him in perfect. Then there was, the two guys that I wanted initially, and then lockdown hit.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we.
But mate, you got so many people through lockdown, right? And I don't know whether you followed.
You were popping up on my
Was I?
on my feeds, mate. Yeah.
So there was so just to frame it, right? So I think it's fair to say that you made that much of an impact that a load of us chipped in a bunch of money, arranged. It was a guy called Tony.
Tom.
Yes,
Tom.
Yeah. Basically, he went out and canvassed the whole of the Facebook group and said, look, I want to pull a gift together for Mark. And this is when we'd come out of COVID. And he came around your house, right?
I went with his.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And he presented you with the plaque.
Poor guy.
But what? And do you know what? Saturday night it was. Right, we used to go drinking on the Linny outside, proper council estate vibes, right? And then we'd be back in for his live stream, and you went through a bunch of different platforms, and it was like, it was more, you're like logging into like Dodgy Stick if you ever had one. I mean, nobody's got them, but it was like figuring out how to get the boxing on a Saturday night. It was right, and then you finally got a bit of a consistent platform, and it just grew and grew, and the ironing board, and then top.
That was an accident, by the way, the ironing board. I didn't expect that to happen. Yeah.
That's one
I
famous
need to know what happened with the ironing board.
The ironing board. Yeah, well, we can jump into that. But the lockdown concept and that thing you said there, you got me through lockdown. I had a delayed response to that. I never understood what people meant. I didn't understand what do you mean I got you through lockdown. Like, that wasn't something that registered probably until 6 months later, a year later.
Really?
I didn't understand what you meant. But then when I started hearing stories of people saying that I lost my husband 3 years ago. Yeah. I've lived on my own ever since, and every Saturday night, because I'm getting goosebumps thinking of it. But it was like music, chat, and everything all at once. It was like a community that we were lacking, and because I was kind of not busy with my day job.
Yeah.
My life was go for a walk, my daily walk.
Yeah.
Watch you talk about Boss Down Vendée, and then sort my music out for live streams, for the 7 p.m. and you'd click live and you'd watch the numbers 200, 300, 400, and you're like, we're on. And yes, there's 400 watching, but then there's 2 or 3 people in that room, so there could be 1,000. And it taught me so much. It taught me so much, like confidence on a mic. I'd never touched a mic.
You hadn't? No.
I remember my first one. We some guy won a competition, Lee Mangan, and couldn't say his name. I didn't understand. You have to cadence your words when there's music. So I got the mic and I'm like,
right over the top of a bit.
Yeah, I'm like, shout out to competition winner. And it was so messy. I just couldn't understand the concept of phase it, wait for the breakdown, and all those things. So you have to kind of get that right. But it dominated the consciousness of so many people and me. It was like Saturday's coming.
It was something to look forward to for a lot of people, man.
Yeah, and drinking is like, obviously I was bigger on the drink then. And
CG Digital Solutions, Nicky and Mike Spooner, thank you very much for sponsoring us thus far.
Yeah, SCG Digital Solutions are a digital marketing firm. They specialise in search engine optimization, PPC, Google Ads, Bing Ads, and social media marketing. It's something that we're using to increase our knowledge on the marketing side. But if you are interested in any of them services, please get in touch with them. Let them know that myself and Paul have been your inspiration to do so, and they might continue to sponsor us.
Kate was the barmaid and shots and all that. And, I used to spend at least, on average, between £150 and £200 on my gin orders.
People used to rock up round your house, though, wasn't there?
Yeah. I had people turn. I mean, Tom, going back to him, what a bloke. Kate wasn't with me one weekend because she was a part of the live streams.
Yeah.
And one time, I was like, Kate's not here. Doing all the music set up. I'm hungry. And I just forgot about it. And an hour later, I got a knock on the door. I was like, sorry, knock on the door. Open the door. Someone ordered me a Palmo. It was Tom. So I'm like, well, thanks for that. And I'm jumping back to the mic. They were 4 hours long. So I'm like, I'm trying to eat it. I'm like, yeah, back in the mix, you know. So getting the Palmos in. And it was just all that. It was such a community thing. And I sometimes wonder, what has it gone? Where's it gone? Is it somewhere different? I mean, Facebook have killed the live stream, so you can't do that anymore. We've got Mixcloud, which you have to get people off social media to get there. Yeah. So it's kind of still there for the core audience. But like you said you see it pop up.
Yeah.
You'll never see that now because Facebook have just killed those things. The live isn't a push anymore, which is a bit of a shame. Man. But yeah, what an era.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, I had a great time through COVID. I'll be honest with you.
One of the best years of my life.
Yeah. I didn't have to be anywhere. Nobody had to be anywhere. You didn't have to go down to Manchester or London or fly to India. You were sat at home and you spent time with your family. Now, that was hard.
There's new challenges being faced there, isn't there?
You learn a lot, and you know, taking the kids out and letting them be kids, and picking a stick up and pretending it's a gun and running around and go and get muddy and stuff out there. Best times of my life. But that Saturday night was always something. And there was one Saturday night Sam Devine went live, and I didn't listen to you, and I got halfway through Sam Devine. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I flipped back over, and I look, mate. You know how much I love Sam, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, happy days, mate. They were great. So you've transitioned, I would say. So I've sat back and watched you. We've probably been pals now since about 2019, 2018.
Yeah, it's like Facebook observers.
Yeah. And then we did that bit of work for when we started that videography business up.
Yes, we had a chat, didn't we?
With Confetti.
Yes.
And then we did Lovely Laura. She hasn't been very well. I messaged Ben the other day just to send her our love. So so we did that, and then we become social media pals, I think. And then what I've observed, I think it's fair to say, is you've gone from being the superstar DJ, which you are. I'll be on a balcony in Turkey and I'll message him and go, where can I get the link for the last thing? He'll send it through straight away. And I'll have it on in the balcony in full blast. But you've gone from that superstar DJ, and I think you've done a lot of self-development, and you've transitioned to this new Mark Plumb, as I see now. And I'm really, really impressed. I don't sound like condescending.
No.
You've really impressed me on how you've turned into this kind of thought leader. I would probably put it within your circle. Yeah. So what was the instigator for that? What was the transition piece? Did you just wake up one day and go, what am I doing?
Do this and this, or was
it?
Yeah, and I agree. Sometimes I struggle to get on board with that. I'm like, what do you mean, like this new? But I understand it. I reflect on that. I'm like, I know what you mean. And I think some form of suffering that I experienced in 2018, 2019, started asking questions of myself. And what was the answer to stop this pain coming in, and what can I do about it? And what was the pain? Well, the pain was being able to deal with things, being able to deal with people, circumstances, treatment, influence.
Okay.
You're like, what is going on? And I didn't understand that a lot of the development that I've done was found in books.
Right.
And experience.
Yeah.
And understanding your suffering.
Right.
Because then you learn how to fortify yourself from that happening again.
Yeah.
So I would say I started reading more in 2018, 2019. And then it just picked up, and I'm sure we'll get onto sobriety, but that's been a catalyst for all this. And it wasn't like I wake up one day and I want to change. It was, we're not here for very long.
Yeah.
And if I'm better, I'll benefit those around me, and that's motivating.
Yeah.
Because if I'm in shape and I'm fresh and I'm not a burden, I'm an asset, I benefit, those close around me benefits, and I start then developing this view that, what if we all did this?
Yeah.
What if we all started understanding that there's a lot of potential in us? And that's one of my big views, that extracting your individual potential is something that you are obliged to do. You've got something to offer the world.
I like that.
You've got something to offer the world, and we sometimes get caught in the thick of thin things. We forget what's important, and we're not extracting ourselves to the best we could be. You've got something to offer, and we get so busy sometimes in the system that doesn't always allow that.
The rat race, right?
rat race, you want to call it that, the conditioning of life.
Yeah.
And when I say these things, I sometimes feel that it might sound cliche and obvious and things like that, but if it resonates or you hear something like this and you go, yeah, I get that, then that's a signal. That's a sign that you can do something about it.
I don't think it's a cliche. Sorry, mate.
No, I was just going to say sometimes, and I know this sounds really daft, when you hear something straightforward, clear and obvious, it makes a huge difference. Like, I'm sure we've all had wobbles where you go and speak to a person of trust and you explain your problems and they just say, what's a worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? And instantly you take a deep breath and you believe in yourself. What is the worst case scenario?
Nobody's going to die. Right?
No one's going to... Exactly. And
I think, so I don't think it's a cliche, right? I think that everybody, I think what you're getting at is the constructive humanity, right? The 9 to 5, the kids go to school to learn stuff that they're never going to put into practice in later life. My daughter's just gone through her options, right? So I was encouraging her to do business, IT. I don't know, she hasn't chosen any of them, hairdressing or whatever. And the IT prospectus, if you like, it's got nothing in about coding, nothing in about AI, nothing in about regenerative AI. And I'm sat thinking, why are you still teaching these people? So I think everybody's so conditioned to that's how it should be. And I think it's nice to hear people like you say, but there is an alternative universe or parallel universe out there that's not that traditional construct that we've all been forced to believe.
Jim Rohn said, you work hard in your job, you'll make a living, which is fine. You work hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune, which is super fine.
Yeah.
And I love that because ever since working on myself, I've become a better asset in my job.
Yeah.
So this idea I don't have time to develop myself, you haven't got time not to.
Yeah.
And being able to speak as clear as you can on what you think, that's a skill, develop that. And I've started to see that those that haven't developed that are usually angry, mumbly, they can't express themselves, so they become angry, bitter, resentful, all these things. And then I started reflecting on when I see those people that no wonder when I was young, and I suppose we talked a bit about that earlier, I've saw my fair share of violence like growing up.
Yeah.
You know, in the streets and clubs and things like that. You know, it's Middlesbrough, isn't it? It's drinking when you're 17 on the streets and all those things. You know, I've saw pickaxes and things like that, and I started thinking about those people, and I remember those guys. They weren't very good communicators.
Yeah.
They were just angry, and rather than be able to speak their anger, it was I'll just punch you.
They can't articulate themselves.
So the anger gets built up. So if someone says, "What's the point in developing your ability to think and say what you mean?" You'll be less angry.
Yeah.
Because one of the human desires that we have is being understood, and that's when we did. In fact, I didn't get to that habit, but seeking first to understand, then to be understood is a habit that I try and teach.
Yeah.
If you've got a problem, and you tell me your problem, and then I reflect that back to you accurately, it gives you psychological air. You stop trying to defend the thing you're trying to tell me. Yeah. Conversations flow better that way.
Yeah, and I'm bought in that you've going to be able to provide a solution to me, right? Because you've articulated it back to me.
Mm-hmm. Is that a whole thing as well? Sometimes you can't understand someone's situation. You can be understanding. And I don't think there's enough of that in the world, in the sense that I don't know anything about an issue that you have. But if you came to me with an issue, and I said, look, I've never been in that position before, but let's sit down, let's talk about it. I'll try and understand it a bit more, and we'll find a solution. Yeah. Whereas, like you just said there, you get some people who want to find a solution with fists and anger. And there's too much of that. Far too much of that in the world.
You've just kind of explained habits 4 and 5 of the 7 habits, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood, and then think win-win. So that is, I want to seek first to understand you, then to be understood, then I want to find a win-win solution we both feel good about. Yeah. And when you offer that to someone, it's very hard to say no to that. Yeah. If I come to you and say, I want to first understand you, then I want to be understood. Let's find a solution we both feel good about. Your brain goes, let's do it. Yeah. Rather than I want to say how great I am and defend my position and what do you mean you're not listening to me?
Down the hill. You can't, there's nobody to back away from that, right? You've got to accept it.
And I've used it in many real-time situations.
So you mentioned these habits that you weekly, and I'm assuming that you delivered some of them. On
Some of them, yeah.
Saturday.
The first one we did.
So have you developed all these yourself?
Though these habits they've been put together by Stephen Covey
Right.
in his book he written in 1989. It's been refined loads. He openly states that they're not his habits.
Yeah.
They're kind of universal laws.
Right.
That's
okay,
why they're so
got you.
fundamental.
Yeah.
That's why it's so worldwide. You can apply these anywhere. It's not somebody's idea. Try this. It's
Yeah, yeah.
this is how we operate as humans, and we have done for many years.
Right,
So,
got you.
so try
Okay.
them.
Just so I didn't, because I know you've mentioned it a few times, but I didn't know where it come from.
Mm.
So where can I find these? Just out of curiosity.
The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People
Right.
by Stephen Covey is a book that revolutionised my outlook on myself,
Okay.
everyone else, and my trajectory.
Right. Got you.
100%. I remember reading that. I did the audiobook first before I got the hard
Hard
copy.
copy.
I remember walking to work. I was living in Cyprus at the time, walking along the cliffs. I'm like, what is this? What is this? This is amazing. And I didn't have a notebook on me at the time. And I got in work and I opened it. I called it reflection book or something like that. And I started making notes and I was like, this is awesome. And then halfway through the book, it's like, I want to change your paradigm on this book. I want you to now read this with the intention to teach it back to someone. Because if you've got the
Wow. Yeah.
mindset of teaching, if we were sat here today and I said, right at the end of this, Jamie, you're going to deliver everything we've talked about to 20 people out there, your attention type will be different.
Yep.
You'll be paying attention in a different way.
Yeah.
That really solidifies learning. That's why I offer those workshops, because I know that it'll force me to understand things to a deeper level rather than surface level, so I can deliver it.
them.
Yeah. It's one of the
very
benefits
cool.
of delivering.
I'm a teacher, in effect.
Oh, yeah?
A teacher in my role,
Okay.
instructor.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was doing my teaching qualification, and there was a gentleman, Simon, and he was fantastic at teaching. Absolutely just engaged you when you just were about to fall off the edge. Just knew what to do. Perfect.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying to me, and I can't remember if it's 2 or 20%, but it's a bit of a random fact. You will remember 2 or 20% of the information you are given. So we'd have a conversation, and I would remember, I'm sure it's 2%.
Yeah.
And I would remember be able to regurgitate and teach on 2% of that, which I think is absolutely insane. And when we were talking about it, it was how can we get it to a point where we raise that 2% to 4%, because then you're obviously getting, I go and teach something. I want my students to know as much as possible. And it's all about them habits, so getting them in, getting them sat in a cool, fresh environment with no clutter on the walls, make it sterile but welcoming and inclusive, and you can slowly but surely increase. They now come into that room by habit, sit in exactly the same spot, and they're in an environment where they're going to learn more.
Yeah, set a good learning environment.
I like that approach that you've taken, Mark, to offer the solution and then your development through that as well. It's pretty smart. That is pretty smart. Alcohol. So
Let me have a drink of my coconut water before you go.
I'm just gonna have a fucking Red Bull here.
I bet your Kate's not drinking coconut water today, now it's in the shed.
She actually, oh yeah, she said, "Can you get me one before I left?" I was like, "Should put it in the shed." That was something we mentioned on Saturday.
So-
It was about habits.
So like we've spoke about my alcohol, not problems, dependency, and it's not a kind of, I don't wake up in the morning and go, I need vodka, right? But those 2 beers on a night certainly calm my mind down.
Well, you think they do.
Well, I think they do, and
It feels like they do.
but I also equally do my own head in. So, for example, dry January, I ended up writing a book in 2 weeks, right? But that is my potential, right? If I'm not drinking, so I'm already sounding like a bit of a knob here, and I get that, right? I totally understand that. When did you stop drinking? What was the?
Yeah, I tried dry January 2022, and I was sober for 4 or 5 months, and then I started drinking again. Then I finally quit in December 2022. It was the day after Boxing Day. In fact, it was Boxing Day. Boxing Day was my last drink.
Right.
2022. That was my last drink.
So, how's it been?
How's it been?
Was it difficult at first?
I want to say no.
especially in the background with the DJing, surrounded by people. And
Well, I was reflecting on something yesterday because I was some high stress moments yesterday, and I was thinking, no wonder DJs, promoters, event planners, whatever you want to call them,
smashed.
we'll get a drink because the things I was feeling before the event started, I was like, it's easy to go forget about it.
Yeah.
Because alcohol is good. Like I'm not going to say it's. I'm not
Yeah,
going to
yeah, no,
demonize
I know,
it. It's
you're
got
not-
lots of
yeah.
positives. I've said this before that it kind of quells anxiety.
Yeah.
It lubricates social interaction. It stops you thinking about the future.
Yeah.
So you're impulsive, which can be fun. All those things. So it's like it can be fun, and we'll come on to maybe some of the things that caused me to stop maybe a bit later. But was it easy? I would say yes,
Right.
because I worked on the things that are a little bit deeper than just the behaviour.
Right. Okay.
And I was trying to teach this on Saturday,
Yeah.
where this like kind of pyramid that I kind of looked at. There's probably a name for it, and it's kind of made up by me in a sense with other bits of influence. And it's almost like an inverted triangle.
Right.
And at the bottom of that is identity. The bottom of that triangle is sustainable change.
Yeah.
It then moves up to like values, beliefs, behaviour, and environment.
Right. Okay.
The further you go up, the more short-term the changes can be. So if I change your environment right now,
Yeah.
you might stop drinking for a week because we're with loads of sober people who don't drink. And
Yeah.
there's no
yeah,
alcohol
yeah,
available.
got you. Yeah.
But after a while, you don't identify with someone that's sober. So that habit will soon come back once that environment changes.
Yeah.
I started at the bottom of the pyramid, and my sentence to myself is, I don't drink anymore. I wasn't trying to stop. I've stopped drinking.
Right.
I don't drink anymore. I was reframing my identity.
Yeah.
That started helping me with the pains that come with maybe wanting to drink, and
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon was always a trigger in a sense.
Yeah.
Then I started learning about habits, cue, craving, response, reward.
Yeah.
They get the cue, had the Sunday dinner, the response is, do I get one or not? And like that habit loop. But there's been lots of times where I could have drank and been in the military and having mess dues and mess functions
Yeah.
and the events and stuff like that. It's very easy to drink. I had to make the decisions beforehand on what my answer was going to be once drink was presented to me.
Right.
So.
And well,
I was just going to say, so for a bit of context on that, I thought that part was brilliant. So Mark would give out pieces of paper with different responses,
Right.
A and a B person,
yeah.
and then put questions up in front of us. And the question was, would you like a cigarette? And person A, I'm not sure if it's the right way around, person A was, no thank you, I'm trying to quit. And person B was, I don't smoke. And I think the importance, when I sat there, and I don't know if this is the message that you were trying to give out, was every time you say, I don't smoke, you are reaffirming in your head, well, I don't smoke.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say, I'm trying to quit, you're leaving a bit of wriggle room there.
Yep.
And it's kind
Come on, stab one.
and that person then has that challenge in their head to try to get you. And I know that sounds terrible, but as human beings, we do try and challenge.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge that they see in their head, and they're like, oh, but you want one though, don't you? Whereas if you just totally shut it off, and that's something that I think a lot of people need to start doing, is say no to things that they don't want to do, and not feel like they're going to be pressured into it.
The whole idea on the habits thing was, how much can I reduce the need to use my willpower? Because it's not that you have stronger willpower than me or less. It's you set up your environment to have to use less of that.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're trying to stop drinking and you're buying beers, you're going to make your willpower very difficult when the football's on and the sun's out. It's like, well, there's cold beers in there.
And there's beer in the fridge.
Yeah, so why not just have a beer? Why not? It's sunny.
Yeah.
You know, you can always ace yourself out and choose the easy option.
I purposefully leave beer in the house during dry January.
Did you?
Purposely. Yeah.
Try
Every
and
year.
fortify yourself.
Yeah.
I've done dry
Demons in
January
your
for
head.
every year for 10 years, and I always have beers in the house and the downstairs toilet, which is like it's not a toilet with loads of beer in. It's like a little bit of a wash area, right? Full of Stella. And I always do when I walk past it. I go, like you say, I don't drink in January. And one January I will come out the other end, and that'll be it. Me done with alcohol for sure. Might be next year, might be the year after. I don't know.
See, I used to love a slurp every weekend. It used to be right, it's a weekend, let's go.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, like even sometimes Monday to Friday, Sir Thomas Brown, all my family are big drinkers. I'd just go in there and there'd be someone I knew in it. Rather than going home, lived on my own for 3.5, 4 years, rather than going straight home, go and have a bit of crack. And obviously you were at the photo shoot.
Yeah.
That massively inspired me. I inspired myself, and I've mentioned this
What,
to
to
you
get on it?
before.
Because you were on those tables at one point, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
So,
I know what's the story.
that night, by the way. But I remember looking at it and thinking, this is what I want for my life. I don't want it to be, I don't want to look forward to the weekend because I'm going to have a drink. I want to have a look forward to the weekend because I've had a good week. I'm going to go nail the gym. I'm going to go and do something. I replaced that need for drinking with another activity. So I'd go for a nice long walk. It gets a bit harder in winter.
Yeah.
When you're on the sofa and you're watching the football and you think, oh, I might pop over the pub. But yeah, I think doing little things, putting yourself out of your comfort zone, because that was definitely not in my comfort zone whatsoever, that whole thing. It inspired me. I mean, yeah, on the night I was on the table getting told off, the music went off the lot, and I thought, oh, Jesus, I've took it one step.
Jamie
I've done a
Taylor.
Jamie T.
There's me taking it all in. Yeah.
Oh, you absolutely naughty boy.
I mean, what popped to mind as you were speaking there was when you talk about the challenge with drinking. It's not what the traditional thought of, oh, I'm shaking, I want to drink. I would say one of the hardest challenges is probably dealing with people that question why you're doing it.
Really?
Because to some people, they don't get it. And it's like, not having to explain, because that's wrong, but because I've kind of fortified my responses now.
Right.
And I can probably come on to your 2 pints thing in a minute, actually, because a lot of the understanding we have with drink and the routines that a lot of people have, I've kind of not debunked them. I'm not here to challenge what you believe. But, you know, people say I drink to relax, or I drink to go to sleep, or all these things. And I've got the answers for them because that's not actually happening.
It's not accurate. Yeah.
So what was coming to mind there was, those people can be difficult. And then you start hearing things. I heard something 4 days ago. It was said to Kate. And the guy said to Kate, something like, you've worked really hard, so you deserve to get on it and have a good time. In fact, he didn't say a good time. He said you deserve to get on it. And my brain went, why do we say that? You've worked really hard, so now I want you to spend more than you normally do. I want you to poison yourself, forget half of it, be unproductive the next day, and then probably not even socialise to the level that you could have.
Yeah.
What a warped paradigm that is.
It is.
And I kind of nudged him. I was like, isn't it weird? You just said that. And you deserve to, get on it. And I think the core message was, it was friendly. It was like, you deserve to relax.
Yeah, I know.
But
sure
it just spiked my mind.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was a guy who says he drinks to switch off, similar to yourself. And then I started learning what drink does. So when we have a drink, I think the chemical is GMB, which is like the relaxing chemical in your brain. So you have a drink, you go, oh, this is nice. So you feel relaxed.
Yeah.
Your brain's relaxed, but your body's under stress.
Yeah.
Because the body then goes, alcohol, poison, cortisol goes up.
Yeah.
So when people say I drink to relax, you're actually stressing yourself out.
Oh, yeah.
So the concept of I drink to relax is kind of, doesn't happen. And then I started learning about sleep. In fact,
Oh, it's worse for that. And for training.
one of my motivating factors was this Garmin.
Really?
Yeah.
I've just went in on another Apple Watch. You know, I was gonna buy one as well.
Well, I used to look at it on a morning, and I'd be like, oh, body battery 80, you know, sleep 7 hours, whatever. And I remember looking after 9 hours in bed, and I'd been on it the night before, and my body battery was 5.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is it 5? So I learned about what alcohol does during sleep.
Yeah.
That you've got your cycles, light, deep REM.
Yeah.
When you drink, you can't do REM.
Yeah.
Rapid eye movement. You can't process memory.
Yeah.
That's why you're forgetful the next day.
Which is when all your growth hormone gets released and your body starts repairing itself. It's the key part, right?
Certainly, and that's more for the deep sleep. But the brainwashing, the proper brainwashing, not the one we might talk about. The brainwashing cycle doesn't happen as well as it could do. So I was like, I don't like that. So it was just seeing something, a measurement that I didn't like. Kind of thought, that's not good, you know. So I suppose curiosity got me a little bit.
Yeah.
I think one of your questions at the start was, you know, how's it been? Me being sat here now is a example of, if I was on it yesterday, I wouldn't be sat here. Well, Paul, I'm not doing Monday. We can do the week after, maybe. And I think one of your questions was, before I get in here, was how do you manage everything?
Yeah.
Every day is a Monday to me. Not in a boring sense.
Right. Okay.
That I don't have to worry about being ineffective on any day of the week.
Yeah.
I try and manage my sleep. I'm up early. You do that consistently, your trajectory starts to change. It's
yeah.
it's not the big wins, and it's almost a little saying that pops to mind is, in life, the little things are the big things.
Yeah.
Therefore, there are no little things.
Yeah.
And that incremental effort, it's never instant, but you end up in places that you would never thought you would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm grateful to be here, and you wouldn't have invited me now if you didn't see the Facebook posts or the thoughts that I put out, the workshops, and you know, and what I've started to understand is, like, I'm not doing this to intentionally inspire people or things like that. All I do, like that quote we mentioned of be a lighthouse, not a tugboat. But when you get people come up to you and say, you really inspired me, I want to do it. It happened last night. A guy called Mark, who I met at the last secret session that I did.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about. And what I find really important is remembering some people's names.
Yeah.
And he come over to me and I said, oh, Mark, how you doing? And I watched his face change. He went, and he's like, how you doing? It was a great night, yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, you've inspired me. He goes, in June, I think it was, I'm running 50 miles and I'm going to do this swim. And I was like, what's the name of it? Oh, I'm doing this, running for charity. You've inspired me. And I thought, that's awesome. Yeah. So
That is awesome.
if you're secretly improving people's lives,
Yeah.
and I say secretly, I've learned this statistic as well, that when you're out there on social media or you're doing things in the public domain, you've got your 20% haters.
Yeah.
We can talk
always.
about them.
Yeah.
People that, doesn't matter what you say, you can feed a homeless man, but you're doing it for clout.
For
Or,
likes,
yeah, you can give things away, you can do, you'll always find a way. So it's worth noting those, that you'll always have people that don't like what you do. There'll be people that don't like what Paul does. You're just doing it for your ego, aren't you, Paul?
Yeah.
You're doing it. You're not doing it for anything else.
Yeah.
No one cares what you know. Those people always exist, and it's always the people behind usually. Most of them secretly want what you've got.
I think. Do you know what? I think I feel sorry for those people, right? And I had an analogy a couple of weeks ago, and I put it on socials, and it was something along the lines of, I don't think they're jealous. I think they are jealous, right? But what impact do those people have on the rest of their circles while they're slagging you off? So it's like, what do you want to achieve by being that vocal 20% per hater?
I have empathy for them now.
I feel sorry for them.
They're just behind
Yeah.
of the thing that you've got. That's all. Because there's people in front never throw shade backwards.
Yeah.
I know multimillionaires, I know people who've got successful businesses, and anytime I speak to them, they have got no ego.
Yeah.
They are supportive. And, you know, you hear all these, again, cliche quotes that, you know, a person with a multi-million-pound business will never give you bad press for starting a business and things like that. So you have those 20%. You have your 20% diehard fans, regardless of what you say, what you do, they love it. They'll follow you, they'll buy the stuff, they'll follow the stuff, they'll do it. They're there. And then there's the 60% of the silent majority. They're a fan of what you do, but they won't comment, they won't like. And that kind of made sense to me. Because I have my doubts sometimes in the event space, let's say. You know, we had over 700 people there yesterday. And it's like, how does that happen? Like, when I reflect on myself, how am I bringing 700 people to these events? What am I selling? But I don't think I'm selling anything. I don't feel like I'm trying to create an experience for people. That's it.
It's a community.
A release.
It's definitely a community. Those people travel for miles as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I met some people this morning for breakfast from Manchester. You know, it's like, there's people come to the secret session from Dublin, Northern Ireland as well, London, and it's like, this is wild.
It's crazy.
You're going to get keys to the city soon.
Say again?
You're going to get keys to the city soon.
And the community thing is really important. What you said there, like having those key people in that group, and I say this all the time, and I was thinking this morning, that the people make it happen.
Yeah.
I can set the idea and I can put the event up. I can create the energy that we need for that.
Yeah.
But the characters are awesome.
Yeah. And the good, and do you know what? The good people. I because I'm a big lad, I'm always conscious about going to parties, the old school dance raves, whatever. Because I attract the attention of the knobhead. So, for example, we were out at Christmas.
Friends, I'm the knobhead.
For example, we're out at Christmas, and this big guy, bigger than me, taller than me, comes up to me and starts giving me shit for no reason. Can you remember? Yeah. Absolutely no reason whatsoever. I attract those people. So, obviously, with my door background as well, I'm super conscious about the environment I go into. However, when I came to Housemasters with Sam, in last December, Boxing Day?
It was
27th.
end of 2023.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 years.
The people I was in the middle of the dance floor, and you had the old school Empire lot, so you dance mates and all them kind of the car dealer crew, and then you had just this wonderful array and mixture of people, and it was honestly like being on a dance floor in Ibiza, and everybody was lovely.
You must look down
And
on
that made a lot of difference to me.
You're making me smile, and I spoke to a guy yesterday. His name's Stephen, bit of an older raver, let's call him. And he comes up to me and he's like, Mark, he goes, I only go to Warehouse Project and House Masters. He goes, I'm an introvert, I don't leave the house for stuff, but these events I fucking love.
Really?
And I feel at home here. I feel welcome. I was like, because you are welcome.
Yeah.
And he come to the first courtyard or the second courtyard, and there was a cracking picture that we reused over and over. He had this yellow jacket on. The shot was taken from behind him, and it was this wicked shot, of the courtyard. And I never, again, going back to like not seeing it, certainly with like COVID, you saved me during lockdown. I didn't understand that, and I didn't understand this thing until I started going to other events on a lens of let's see how they run their events, and the people were just different. I'm not saying they were chewy or anything; it was just wasn't the same. There was not that welcome.
There's a certain vibe that you feel, and it's very, when you get off the plane in Ibiza, and that. Yeah, and that's a cliche.
Well, we're here.
That's a cliche. But when I arrive in Ibiza, right, it's like the whole world of stress is lifted off my shoulders, and I really feel at home. Right, it's a vibe very, very similar to that. Yeah. Being at Housemasters gig, very, very similar to that. And the only thing you can kind of reflect and kind of put it against is the community that you've built. So that Facebook group, I love reading them the next day because everybody's hanging. And the photos are going on, and they're like, I'm going to be ruined till Tuesday. I just
saw a picture this morning of 2 drinks going together because they're still on it, and I'm like,
yeah, buddy.
Wild. That guy, actually, in fact, I won't mention it.
These secret sessions, though, so where was the idea of that? Because I know, obviously, I'm in the group on WhatsApp. And this, that,
yeah. All right, okay.
That's one thing I was going to say is, it says community straight away. Yeah. And I think that's what helps with the people who are there. They all feel like they're all together.
Yeah. Well, the WhatsApp was a new idea, so I'm surprised you're in that.
Yeah, I'm in that. So, obviously the no phones rule and things like that.
I love that.
Explain where was the whole concept of that?
Yeah, I mean, the idea come to me, and one of the things I was trying to express last Saturday about the mind and about this constant stimulation we have, music, phones, things going off, things grabbing our attention, that I started understanding that when we have incubation periods, parts where we allow our mind to expand, great ideas come. And I was starting seeing a trend on dance floors, which was killing me off a little bit. And I think I've always had an annoyance with phones when I played New Year's Eve for that brand we mentioned earlier a few years ago. And there were some wicked pictures, but the DJ's behind me.
On the phone?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the photos, I thought, I can't use them. There's something about looking at that photo. The crowd are doing this.
Looks unprofessional.
I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
Am I boring? What's going on there? So I think that sparked my, micro frustration. And then I started seeing dance floors and the new school acts and the new school DJs, let's say, the young guys who are making the music, they're making a scene, good for them. And I've heard some of them say things like, we need phones for marketing and promotion stuff. And I'm like, maybe, but I think there's other ways. Anyway, going back to my point about incubation periods, any artist or writer or people that have come up with great ideas have allowed their mind to expand.
Yeah.
They've not been constantly checking the phones, they're constantly stimulated. So I asked myself a question, what can I do about this phone thing? And I was in the Parkmore Hotel, and I went in the sauna, and I was there for like 40 minutes or something. I sat there, steaming, I think it was. And I was chilling, and the idea come to me. That's the beauty of allowing your subconscious to answer these difficult questions. And my brain said, 120 people will post the packages to them. Phones are mutually agreed that we can't use. And then you'll have an old school flyer and a wristband to get in. No online tickets. No need for your phone. The response was mega. Sold out in 9 hours or something, 120. And we did this house in Middlesbrough. It was like it's called Disgraceland. And we filled that out. And that was the start of it, Secret Session 001, and it was a positive response to the frustration of the distraction phones cause. I mean, us talking now, if I got my phone out for half a second, you feel unheard. I've disconnected, and I'm going to struggle to get back into this conversation, whether I know that or not. And relationships are suffering from this. You sat at your table and you talk to each other in 2 seconds, you know.
Yeah, we've been through a big learning curve with phones and teenagers, teenage girls specifically.
Yeah, well, it's harder for them. It's harder for females.
Huge.
Because they have a bigger urge to be in the in crowd.
Yeah.
Men can deal with not being in the in crowd as much. Females are different. They're wired slightly different, and they need that socialization. And if they're not in the Snapchat group or the group, they hurt more. Yeah. They need to know. So.
It's been really eye opening. There's a book called I forget what it's called. I'm going to butcher it, but Jonathan Haidt is called, and he goes into the creation of Instagram, mainly selfie filters, and the increase in female suicide at 13 to 17-year-old. Yeah. And that's just look. I think phones add a lot of value to our lives, but equally, all of those pictures that you see where your face is getting sucked into them, or you're cuddling your partner, but you're looking at a phone. All of those are really, really, really accurate.
That's those artistry, hidden cost images, aren't they? Yeah.
Have you seen that guy who's photoing people and taking the phones out of the hands, so they're just looking at the hands?
Really?
Oh, it's spooky, super spooky.
So I had a conversation with someone about this. It was after Saturday, and it was about social media. So everyone is bang on social media now, and it's at a point where I feel like we'd all probably lose our heads a little bit if we didn't have it. And I got into the topic of, I think social media is a massive positive, because if it wasn't for social media, we probably wouldn't have Housemasters, or we probably wouldn't have the secret sessions that we've got. So it's brilliant for communicating, learning, educating, etc., etc. But unfortunately, I think we've abused it. Humanity's abused it in this, that we are searching for something in social media that really, if we put our phones down and had a look instead of watching it through the screen at an event, for example, take it in, have the memories. You don't need it on your phone. So I do think there's a massive place for phones and social media, but I think we've got to limit the use of it.
Yeah, and I think the apps that they develop, and even it's the apps that the way the development, it's for the release of the vibe that you get through scrolling. The dopamine hits that you get, the little micro hits. But then, what does that actually do into your overall dopamine store? Well, when are you going to actually go?
We talked about it on Saturday.
And did you really?
I've got about 3 pages on this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's the dopamine is the chemical that motivates you to reproduce, build a shelter, have food, all those things. And if you deplete that through TikTok, that's why you can't be bothered doing the things you should be doing, because you've got rid of your motivation chemical. What I didn't cover on Saturday, which I would like to, is like, how do you get back from that doom scroll to then back to motivated you again? Because you're motivated in the morning because you've not checked your phone, you've done all this stuff. What I didn't cover is the tools to get back to that. And something that works really well for me to reset myself is bore yourself.
Right, okay.
Put the phone somewhere, sit in a room. No, it's weird because you're so stimulated all the time. Go sit in a room, give yourself 20 minutes and just sit, just look. And just bore yourself. Don't stimulate yourself. Let your chemicals reset. That's really useful.
I think an interesting point you'd mentioned was, what's the first thing you do when you wake up? Grab your phone. And then you're using that dopamine, or you're losing your motivation. So already you're starting your day off on a loss.
Yeah. I don't, if I'm honest with you. So I'll just make sure that I'll look at my bank notifications to make sure nothing's untoward. Well, that's what I do for a living, so I've got to be on it. But I do not check social media till the kids have had the breakfast, and I'll sit down with my protein shake and I'll have a quick scroll.
That's a good habit. That's a good habit.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to bring it up on this podcast, but one of the reasons I can reflect deeply on this is I had a gambling problem in my 20s.
Did you really?
Early 30s, yeah. Lost way over 100k.
Really?
Lost the out. Yeah. I don't think I've ever told you. Well, it's a hidden addiction, isn't it? Oh, wrong word. It wasn't an addiction. It was a problem.
Yeah.
And what inspired me to come up with that there? That was the process I'd go through with gambling and my losses and the hole I'd get in. And now make sense of it. your prefrontal cortex that is
Yeah.
there to make the good decisions, rationalize, all those things, gets hijacked by the limbic system. So it's almost like prefrontal cortex, I'm in charge, we'll use £100. If you lose that, we're out.
Yeah.
But when you start repeating that cycle and you increase the influence of the limbic system,
Right.
you get into a zone where your prefrontal cortex just can't pull you out.
Yeah.
You're in that zone, and whether it's drinking, I imagine this happens with drugs, gambling, it's very difficult to pull yourself out.
Yeah.
And that's why the rational mind goes, why'd you lose £5,000?
Yeah.
Why do you take drugs?
But it's in the intra moment. And
But it's once you're past it, it's very difficult to get out of. So I didn't understand all that neuroscience, let's say, back then, but now I do. Now it kind of makes sense. When I was in the zone back then, I'd need someone to turn the internet off before I stopped. I have to lose all my money, or someone turn the internet off. Or,
Really?
Yeah, I was in. I wanted to get my money back.
Yeah.
Chasing the dragon.
Chasing the dopamine hit, which is the anticipation of something
win.
good happening. Yeah.
See, I bet I've got a big gambling problem, so I bet £1 and I put an accumulator on a Saturday, and I like to get my accumulator up to about 70,000 to 1, and I put my £1 on, and if it goes over £2 cash out there, I'm cashing out, bro.
Doubled your money.
Little wins, mate.
I'm like, woohoo! It's not about how much; it's about the winning. No, I'm not bothered about taking part, bro. It's about the winning.
But it gives
that
you,
extra quid.
yeah. I don't at all. I'll be completely honest with you. I've never ever been interested in gambling. It's probably because I'm the tightest man in the world.
Yeah, I am as well.
Do you know what I mean? So, it used to be in the pub where it always is. Lads, have you got an accumulator on? I'm just going to watch a match, mate. Have a couple of beers.
Do you know why I honestly put it on? Because I don't like football. I don't not like football. I just don't. If it was on, I'd watch it. If it's not on, but then when you're having a conversation with the lads at work on Monday, and they're like, "Oh, did you see how Chelsea got on?" No, I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I do it. To be fair.
Yeah.
But,
But maybe that's another conversation. Maybe the gambling.
no, it's interesting. I did not know.
Hidden.
So what's the so you've posted something about high performance workshop that you're doing in London
In June, at the Soho House.
Yeah, what's happening with this then?
Yeah, so again going back to inspiration really and influence. Sean, who owns Willis Fitness, saw what I've been up to.
Yeah.
Kind of inspired him to I want to do some of that.
Right.
And then going back to the understanding that if you have to deliver something, you have to learn that subject a lot more.
Yeah.
He's then said, well, let's do Soho House. He's
Right.
got his coaching business. Let's make it open to the public.
Yeah.
Charge a small fee to cover the costs.
Yeah.
Invite 20 people down. 21st of June, Soho House, very plush place.
Yeah,
Looks the part. Well, he's had his own journey. He was on the drugs,
Right.
producer, DJ,
Right.
left all that behind.
Yeah.
His sort of push now is to get people like him in the industry on his programs and things like that.
Right. Okay.
He's turned his life around in 3-4 years.
Is that the guy whose podcast you were on
Yes.
before? We need to find him.
I'll send you it.
All right.
I've
Yeah.
got it
I
to
watched it because I phoned you straight away, and I went, "When are you going to start your own podcast?"
Right.
Can you remember?
Yeah.
I'd messaged him on. To be fair, I always do. Whenever I see something that I think is really good, I think it's really important. Is we give people shout outs and
Absolutely.
and things. And I messaged him. I said, "This was brilliant. This one."
Yeah.
And he messaged me to follow on with his newsletter and this, that, and neither. I think I did. To be fair.
It might be his PA. He's got a VA as well.
Yeah.
He's got someone doing social media.
So sorry. So back to this workshop. So Soho House in London, and what's going to be the makeup of the day? What's it going to look like? for you?
Yeah, it's going to be a merger of some of the 7 habits we talked about.
Yeah.
He's going to cover his addiction problems back in the day.
Cool.
And it's almost like a introduction to transforming your life.
Awesome.
Working on the habits and stuff. It's almost why I did that last Saturday, to get better at that bit.
To have a little
Yeah.
bit of a-
So it's a mix of the stuff I'm good at, the 7 habits,
Yeah.
the actual habits on a daily basis. His stuff, we're going to get together soon beforehand. We're going to merge something together. 11 a.m. to like 4 or 5 p.m. Option to have dinner with us after, and then done. And if that inspires people to change that trajectory, then it's a win. And, like we said earlier, it's not the instant transformational wins you have on the day. It's that small thing
parts. Yeah,
you
yeah.
change. So
It's like my day is broken up by small little tasks, and when I finish, so I've done my 10,000 steps, I've done the gym, the housework's done, blah 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 blah. That's when I feel comfortable.
you're proving you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
And you're creating these little wins. And I talk about make your bed, that famous
Creating-
video.
yeah.
Making your bed creates a win. then your dopamine, you can kind of hijack it in a positive way. If you make your bed, I feel good, right? What's next? Rather than if I go on Instagram and I see my likes, your brain just wants more of that. I can talk about in the gambling days. It doesn't matter what the dopamine is. Whatever you give it first, it's going to set you up for the rest of that day. So try and do something positive. But Sean, interestingly, I didn't know him back then, but I served with Sean in Afghan.
No way.
In 2010.
Because that's right. It's all coming together now, right? Yeah. But I got the sense that he was some sort of old school DJ as well.
Yeah. He was a DJ. He wasn't an old school DJ. He was a minimal tech house DJ.
Okay. Yeah.
Lived in Berlin. That lifestyle.
That's right. Yeah.
That kind of thing. But yeah, I kind of remember him from my last Afghan in 2010. But I didn't speak to him then. Didn't know.
How did you two get involved with each other? Was it through that podcast?
I think he just started seeing stuff on my social media, liking my stuff, like that. And then he reached out. He's obviously saw. I mean, that's what social media does, doesn't it? If
positive thing.
If you're looking for an answer to something, there'll be someone out there with that.
Yeah.
And I think going back to that lack of understanding on my sense of how do I inspire people when I feel like I'm just being myself.
Yeah.
But it's probably because they are seeing something that they need. They might not understand that they need it.
Subconsciously.
And subconsciously go, I like what that person's saying. And we talked about some of the thought leaders that we like and we agree with. I think that's what they do for us. They put into clarity and focus of some of the things we're trying to understand.
Yeah.
And that's useful. But yeah, Sean just reached out to me after a couple of months of social media friends, let's say. He turned his life around and he invited me on.
Fair play. Good. That it was a good podcast because I remember I messaged you straight away and we had a bit of a FaceTime, didn't we? And I'm like, because I've said to you a few times, because you're going to start your own podcast.
You're right, because I've got this urge and I'm not acting on it and I need to, because one of my philosophies is to know the answer to something, you have to walk towards it. Whether it's good, this podcast for you, whether it works out for you or not, you can't theorize it. You can't have a theory on it. You have to
go
do it.
Test it.
So you have to do it for 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, and then you go, right, that's not for us. We're not very good at that. Or we are really good at that. Look where we are now. And Joe Rogan sat here. Yeah. But you know.
You don't need Joe, mate. We've got Mark Plumb, bro.
So then I'm looking at this idea that I've got of how can I formalise and put into practice all the things I've learned in the last 20, 30 years into an online platform that's got a community, it's got calls with me, group calls, whatever. And I looked at school, Alex Hormozzi's platform. And then this is my own condition. I'm like, but then you have to charge money for that. I don't want to charge anyone for that. But then you have to.
You have to.
Because then the deal's not there.
Yeah.
So I then think, right, I'll start it because I'm getting out the military in 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, that's new actually, that information. I wasn't.
No.
Well,
I can bleep things, you know.
You were, so you hadn't decided, had you?
No.
Last time we spoke.
No, I have now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's not for me. My alignment isn't there anymore.
I can understand. I can understand that, and I understand why as well. That makes perfect sense.
But I'd love to start something online.
Yeah.
You know that as a monthly subscription, we create lots of value. We have guest speakers maybe. I'll share frameworks, whether it's sobriety, gambling, dealing with yourself. I'm not a nutritionist. I don't have a qualification, but I understand eating in terms of like what to eat, what not to eat, and sleep and performance. And I'm not a finished product, and I never will be. No one will be.
No,
but if I can help people that thing we talked about earlier further behind, that's useful to me.
I think so. When you say now that you're not qualified, I don't think there's a thing about qualifications. Now I'm not a fan of academia. Partially because I got 7 Fs, 2 Ds and an E at my GCSE level and I've done nothing since.
I need a question for you before you carry on.
Go on.
The successful people you know,
the
hyper successful, however you measure it, money, business, I see the same as well.
None of them are educated.
Yeah.
You see, I think that there's a certain population that sit around, and I'll probably say it's the 120 to 150 money annual salary, who but they're working for the man and they're not happy at all, and they will whinge about it. They're on good money, but they're not happy. The entrepreneurs that I know, you normally tend to find that they're on some sort of scale in some shape or form, or whether a spectrum of ADHD or more so than qualifications. But I will not. I don't want my daughters to go and get 40 grand's worth of debt.
Yeah, get obsessed with the pieces of paper. Yeah.
For a bit of paper.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of and it's becoming more accepted now that people without qualifications can have an opinion and they actually know a little bit more than the qualified person. I mean, you look at RFK, Rob Kennedy. I mean, he's a bit of a space cadet, but he's talking a lot of sense in that space, and it's making a lot of people think differently. And I think chucking those balls in the mix and getting people talking about it, I think, is a start. I mean, that food pyramid that the US brought out last year, it had those Irish, but you know those Irish charms, Lucky Charms, were actually part of the food pyramid and accepted part of the food pyramid with all that dye that they've just managed to get out from Kellogg's and stuff like that. And I know about that and I can articulate that, but I'm not qualified as you know. But we can still tell people about it. I can tell people the stuff that I ate to get from 26 stone down to 16 stone.
And you look great now.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's experience. And I think if you were interviewing for a job and someone had just come from 5 years at university studying ICT, and then you had someone who's worked in ICT for 5 years, who would you rather have? I personally would much rather have someone who's got hands-on experience. I think attitude's probably the most important thing.
You don't learn how to swim by reading about it.
Yeah. Exactly, but I think it's all about it's all about people's attitude. And you can sculpt anyone into a job like to be able to do something, but it's having that attitude to do it, isn't it? So yeah, I think experience is far more important. This is coming from someone who didn't go to university.
Yeah, before we wrap up, so Housemasters yesterday. You did 2 sessions, very, very successful. What's happening next for Housemasters? Have you got any plans? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to Kate this morning, should I have went with the second day at the courtyard? Because I haven't, because there was availability in August.
Interesting.
And I'm going ahead with the secret session as my main focus.
Yeah.
Saturday, the 2nd of August. It's in Newcastle. Okay. NE1 is the only thing I'll give away. Because the location's on the flyer that arrives in the post.
Got it. Right, very clever.
So the postcode is for your hotels and your taxis or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the exact location, I'm going to the venue tomorrow. The exact location is on the flyer. You get your wristband in the post, you get some merchandise, and we're halfway there. The capacity is quite big for this one.
Okay.
But then I was thinking, as long as it doesn't lose money, I'm happy.
You're bringing that community together again.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this in terms of, I question whether I want to continue the DJ stuff. You're like, why is that? You've got all this stuff. And I think it's because, does it always align with the things, all the stuff we talked about today? But then I've reframed it a little bit, that it kind of does in a way. It's an expression of giving people something valuable in a different way. It might not be a sobriety program, or it might not be how to communicate better. It might not be habits on this, and this, but it is giving someone else a release, some positivity.
But I think it's really good that you are in that industry and you talk about your sobriety and things like that, because it gives people an option, if that makes sense. So people can look at you, look up to you and what you've achieved in setting up Housemasters, secret sessions, etc., etc. And if they don't want to drink, it's acceptable because Mark doesn't drink.
I have a funny devil on my shoulder though, because as much as I'm talking about with you guys, I don't talk about that often, because there's this weird devil on my shoulder that says, don't talk about sobriety, because some people might see you as unrelatable then. And like, I have all these things coming to my mind, and it's like, it's probably not true. And I think some people might think that, they might not, but I have this relatability question in my mind sometimes.
I can understand that, it's like, I do. But just, sorry, going back to that DJing piece, right? So I've got a picture on my in my kitchen, and it says, one song brings back 1,000 memories. And I think that is your, if you hadn't reframed it, that could be something for you to consider, because I think that space, the DJ space, would be at a loss if you chose to do that, mate. And I think it's evidenced by all of those posts that are going to be flying about over the next few days.
Yeah, I got an inbox this morning actually. She sent me a picture of me playing, but she had a cup of tea in front of her. And she's like, I didn't drink last night. I chose tea instead. You know.
You've normalised that. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and although you say you might not be relatable through the sobriety thing,
Yeah.
the way the world is made, there's, say for example, it's a 50-50 split. There'll be 50%.
I think you said option earlier.
Yeah.
You're giving people an option.
Yeah.
I like that look at it because, yeah, you know, like I get drinking, I get doing whatever. I understand that. Have a bit of fun, but it's an option. If you want to do the other one, you can. If you want to do that one, you can. I suppose, rather than you have to do this, and this. Yeah, I suppose. And I am working this out. I'm reflecting as I'm talking to you guys. And it's going to be yeah.
Mate, it's been unreal.
Thank you. Very, especially after last night, 4:15,
Unreal.
Dominoes.
Straight in.
Unreal, mate. Unreal. It's really, really appreciate it. I thought when Jamie said, "Oh, will you come and be co-host?" and we both went and did a list of 10 people that we wanted on. You were number one, mate.
I would have liked to get earlier, but
I know.
my availability in the northeast is quite short.
You're a busy guy, mate. I mean, look at this weekend.
Yeah, just appreciate you taking the effort. We went to the Keys, didn't we, for a coffee, and it was like, right, here's the list, right, Mark Plumb.
Do you know what's interesting, Paul? And I won't mention it now. I've actually got another business that no one knows about that takes up probably most of my time.
Really?
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing as soon as I get back. Logging in and I'm on. It's not OnlyFans.
All right.
It's not OnlyFans.
Is it that?
No.
I'm a bit disappointed.
No.
What is it? You're going to tell us?
Viewfinder.
Part 2.
Viewfinder part 2. Right. Okay. Part 2. Well, mate, I'm pleased that you're going to come back to speak to us. But yeah, thank you.
Can we shake on that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Cheers, mate.
I love all the stuff that you do and how it's coming across. And if you're ever conscious about how it's coming across, you know I'm a great promoter. I love seeing it, mate.
Before we finish, I'd like to try and define what leadership is.
Yeah.
And I might be paraphrasing here, but I like this view on it, that leadership is communicating somebody else's worth and potential so clearly they begin to see it in themselves.
Yeah.
So when someone comes at you like the barometer and goes, Mark, you've got this, this and this, I might not see that. But you're demonstrating leadership because you're seeing it in someone else.
Yeah.
And if you've got that vision for someone, they might not have it, but you might be the course corrector for that. So that's another reason why it's very important to speak your mind and be clear on what you
So there's this guy in the gym who has lost a significant amount of weight, but he's not very well. He's poorly, right? And he every Saturday